wanted to do the next presentation in the CINE webinar, because that Professor Hudson told me to do this presentation in English. And I'm here and let's do that. I'm going to talk about my two last published papers. Both of them involving the two projects of Advanced Energy Storage Division. One of them is Project 6, Development of Highly Porous Carbon-Based Materials for Supercapacitors. The other is Project 7, Characterization of Supercapacitors in Operation Regime. This presentation will be in two parts. In the first part, I will talk about the paper named Carbon Pentoxide Carbon Shell Nanoparticles Decorating Multi-Walled Carbon Nanotubes as Electrode for Electrochemical Capacitors, where we developed a carbon-based material decorated with niobium pentoxide, and this paper was published at the Journal of Power Source. This journal has a very interesting impact in the scientific community. As you can see, it has an impact factor of 7.4. In part 2 of this presentation, I will talk about the paper named Niobium Pentoxide Nanoparticles at Multi-Walled Carbon Nanotubes and Activated Carbon Composite Material as Electrodes for Electrochemical Capacitors, where we developed a carbon-based material and we studied that carbon-based material under dynamic conditions. We had published that paper at the Journal of Energy Storage Materials, and this journal also has a very interesting impact factor in the scientific community, having 1509 sub-score. Sorry. Okay, let's go on talking about the part 1. I will talk about the paper named Niobium Pentoxide Carbon Shell Nanoparticles Decorating Multi-Walled Carbon Nanotubes as Electrode for Electrochemical Capacitors. Here in this paper, we report a method to produce nanostructured carbon-based material by electrospraying niobium pentoxide nanoparticles onto carbon nanotubes. As you can see in this figure, we have a schematic representation of the experimental procedure used in the fabrication of these electrodes. Here in this figure, we can see the electrospray and the thermal treatment. But how does electrospray works? In a few words, we apply a very high electric field that attracts the niobium pentoxide nanoparticles by electrospraying them on the carbon surface. After that, we had made a thermal treatment at 650 Celsius degrees for 1 hour in constant flow of nitrogen. Because that process, the niobium pentoxide nanoparticles are partially covered with a thin layer of carbon and encoded in carbon nanotubes. These carbon-based materials not only has the excellent and well-known properties of carbon nanotubes, such as high window voltage and chemical stability, but also has the pseudocapacitive properties due to the niobium pentoxide nanoparticles. And because that, we have extensively characterized these electrode materials, but in this presentation, I will just show to you the main results, like cyclic voltammeter, charge and discharge, electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, and first of all, I will show the scanning and transmission electron microscopy. As you can see in figure A to F, we have the scanning electron microscope images. Here we can see the structure of carbon nanotubes decorated with niobium pentoxide nanoparticles. And looking to figure G to L, we can see transmission electron microscope images. Especially in figure K and L, we can see a thin film of carbon covering the niobium pentoxide. And because that paper is named core shell niobium pentoxide. Okay, to understand the electrochemical response of these electrodes, we had made different types of electrochemical studies. First, in this figure we can see cyclic voltammetry and electrochemical impedance results. In the left side, we can see the voltammetric curves as a function of charge and discharge cycles. Here, it goes from 10,000 cycles to 195,000 cycles. And in the right side, we can see the evolution of the complex plane plots as a function of the charge and discharge. In both cases, we can see even after a lot of cycles, this electrode had a very good shape. Second, we have the charge and discharge curves and Bergone plot. Here, looking to figure E to G, we have the GCD curves and their corresponding findings. Figure E shows the charge and discharge curve at different gravimetric currents. From this data, we can plot this graph. And in figure F, we can see specific capacitance and area capacitance as a function of gravimetric current. And lastly, on the right side, we have the radon plot. The radon plot contrasting different electrochemical energy storage devices, like capacitors, batteries, lithium-ion capacitors, batteries, and so on. In the radon plot, the yellow symbols represent the data extracted to the cone cell only using carbon nanotubes. And in the other hand, the pink symbols represent the data extracted to the cone cell using the niobium pentoxide electrodes. All of these results show to us that carbon-based material decorated with niobium pentoxide has excellent electrochemical response, including high specific energy, high specific power, high specific capacitance, very high cyclability, over than 100,000 cycles. But in this way, we can conclude that in this paper, we report a very interesting carbon-based material to be used in supercapacitors. Okay, now I'd like to move on to the part 2 of this presentation, and now I will talk about the paper named Niobium pentoxide nanoparticles at multi-walled carbon nanotubes in activated carbon composite material as electrodes for electrochemical capacitors. This paper involves Project 6 and Project 7. In a similar process that was described in the first part of this presentation, but now merging Project 6 and Project 7, we report a carbon-based material decorated with niobium pentoxide. But here, the carbon material is composed by carbon nanotubes and treated carbon. In this case, the carbon nanotubes works like a binder for activated carbon, and niobium pentoxide was attached to the carbon surface, improving in this way, improving the electrochemical charge process, introducing some Faraday reactions in this process. Again, I will just show to you the main results, such as cyclic voltaic charge and discharge, scanning electron microscope, but mainly I will show to you the random operando analysis. Here, to illustrate the electrode preparation, electrospray setup, the annealing treatment, and as I said before, the electrospray put on the niobium pentoxide on the carbon surface, and after that we had made annealing treatment, and these electrodes we had used in a coin cell to do the electrochemical analysis. In figure B, you can see a schematic representation of the coin cell assembly. In the bottom part, we can see the coin cell bottom cap, followed by a spring and spacer, and that spacer working like an electric contact, followed by two electrodes separated by a mesoporous membrane, and next we have other spacer, and finally the coin cell top cap that will close the coin cell. Again, this coin cell was used for all electrochemical studies. Here we have the scanning electron microscope and transmission electron microscope. Figure A and B shows scanning electron microscope images, and figure C to A shows transmission electron microscope. But to really understand the electrochemical response, we had made the cyclic voltammetry and charge and discharge. Here we can see cyclic voltammetry, or better, on the left side we can see two cyclic voltammetries, one of them using a voltage window of 1 volt and the other one using a voltage window of 1.8 volts. But here the main point is this figure shows to us voltammetric curves as a function of charge and discharge. Here it goes from 500 cycles until 250,000 cycles. And even after a lot of cycles, and in some cases it goes into 500,000 cycles, we have a very good shape in the cyclic voltammetry. Maybe this shows to us that using carbon nanotubes, activated carbon, and niobium pentoxide together, it can improve the electrical conductivity of these electrodes. Next, we have the charge and discharge curves. And in figure A, we can see GCD curves as a function of the cell voltage. It goes from 1 to until 2 volts. And figure B shows GCD at 1 volt. And figure C shows to us GCD at 1.8 volts. The both using different gravimetric curves. Here we can see on the left side the data structure from GCD curves showing efficiency as a function of the voltage, and the right side we can see specific capacitance, specific energy, and specific power as a function of gravimetric current. And lastly, we have the radon plot, again, comparing different types of electrochemical energy storage device. And in the head frame, in the middle of this graph, we can see our device. But here, we can see our results show that a composite material has excellent electrochemical response. But the main point in this work is the Raman operando studies. To illustrate the Raman and operando experimental setup, we have this figure. Looking to them, you can see a schematic representation of the experimental setup evidencing the electrochemical cell and the Raman microscope. And that cell is composed by two electrodes separated by mesoporous membrane, and the counter-reference electrode and the separator have a hole in the center, just for the laser to reach the working electrode. In the right side, you can see a real picture of the cell used in this test. This cell is named Eagle cell, and we had used this cell because it allows the Raman spectral acquisition and electrochemical studies at the same time. Okay, here we can see some results of this Raman operando analysis. In the left side, you can see photometric curves obtained at 100 millivolts per second before Raman operando analysis, and we had made that just to verify the proper function of the cell. And the right side, we can see the Raman operando spectrum. We had made this using the voltage window of 0 to 1.8 volts. From the data of the last slide, we can plot these two graphs. On the left side, we can see the Raman band of sulfate as a function of applied potential. On the right side, we can see the plot of intensity and D-band position as a function of the cell voltage. Here, we can observe a reversible shift in the D-band. Maybe this shift is related to the charge storage mechanism. We have been studying this point, but after these finds, I had questioned myself, what this means the D-band shift? And since then, I have been studying the fundamentals of Raman spectrum. I have been trying to understand why it happens, or trying to understand why the D-band shifts under dynamic conditions. And in this way, we have been doing some tests under dynamic conditions using graphite. And we have been using graphite for a simple reason. Graphite has only carbon bands, and it's more easy to study that. Okay, because that, I have been writing a paper named Orange of D-band reversible shift on Raman spectrum of graphite electrode under dynamic conditions on electrochemical capacitor. This paper only involves the Project 7. Here, again, as I showed before, you can see schematic representation of the cell used in this test. And here, we can see the Raman spectra took it under dynamic conditions. In figure A to C, we can see the Raman spectra using acid sulfate electrolyte, and figure D to F shows the Raman spectra using lithium sulfate. And here, it's so clean that the D-band shifts and then returns, following the absorption and desorption of the cations. Again, here we can see, looking to figure G to I, the Raman spectra using sodium sulfate, and figure J to L, we can see the Raman spectra using potassium sulfate. Next, we have, looking to figure A to C, the D-band as a function of applied voltage. Here, it's so clean that the D-band shifts and then returns, following the absorption and desorption of cations. In this analysis, we have used the 3 different lasers, 633 nanometers, 488, and 514 nanometers. These 3 lasers were used in different electrolytes, as I said before: acid sulfate, lithium sulfate, sodium sulfate, and potassium sulfate. And here, this figure shows to us the main point of this work. Maybe we found a relationship between charge storage mechanism and the band shifts. Okay? I have been studying this point. I have been studying to better understand this point. But maybe I have an initial model to explain that. By applying a potential to the inoperando Raman cell, we attract the cations to the graphite surface. These cations are absorbed in the carbon surface, forming the electrical double layer. Every ion absorbed modifies the electric field in the carbon surface, the graphite surface. Thus, the cation modifies the electric field and then affects the phonon vibration, thus changing the D-band shift on the Raman spectra. But, as I said before, it's just preliminary results, it's just preliminary model to explain that. And again, I have been studying that point, and maybe you can help me to better understand that. And that's all that I have to talk about my research, and thank you all. Sorry for my bad English, and see ya.